Silent Confessions, the curator's secret. Welcome to Silent Confessions, where we explore the intoxicating dance between desire and consequence. Sometimes infidelity isn't just betrayal, it's a discovery, an inner revolution, a raw awakening of the soul. That night, a spilled coffee set off a fire neither of them could have ever predicted, a blaze that threatened to consume everything in its path. Warning, this is a story of passion, temptation, and forbidden desire, crafted for the discerning adult. If you think you can resist the allure of the forbidden, keep watching, but be warned, you might just find yourself questioning your own boundaries. New York was a relentless beast that morning, a concrete jungle teeming with ambition and unspoken desires. The cacophony of honking cars, the frigid late winter wind that seemed to claw at exposed skin, my schedule so tightly packed it felt like a suffocating embrace. Court awaited me, a high-stakes hearing I couldn't afford to lose. And like every morning, my only solace was the steaming cup of coffee I clutched like a lifeline as I navigated the ravenous rush-hour crowd. And then the universe decided to play its hand. A sudden, jarring collision, a moment suspended in time like a breath held too long. I felt the scalding liquid erupt over my fingers, watched in horrified fascination as it cascaded down, staining the silky emerald green dress of the woman I had so carelessly crashed into. She stiffened, her body a taut string pulled to its breaking point, lowered her gaze to the spreading disaster, then lifted her eyes to meet mine, sharp green irises burning with a controlled fury that sent a shiver down my spine. "Do you have any idea how much this fucking dress costs?" Her voice was low, a silken rasp that hinted at hidden depths, a blade wrapped in velvet, cutting and elegant. It was a voice that promised both pleasure and pain in equal measure. My mouth opened, but the carefully constructed words of a seasoned lawyer seemed to evaporate on my tongue. Me, the attorney who feared no one, who prowled through courtrooms with the confidence of a predator, was suddenly reduced to a flustered rookie facing a storm she couldn't contain, a tempest brewing in those emerald eyes. "I'll pay for it, whatever the cost." The words rushed out instinctively, a desperate attempt to appease the goddess I had so clumsily offended. But her slow, knowing smile, a curve of pure feminine power, told me that money was the least of what she desired. It was a smile that hinted at games yet to be played, at debts that couldn't be settled with mere currency. "Oh, I don't want your money, sweetheart." She stepped forward, closing the space between us, her body heat radiating like a subtle invitation, mingling with the intoxicating scent of her perfume, a heady blend of jasmine and forbidden secrets. With deliberate slowness, she pulled a lipstick from her purse, a crimson bullet in her manicured hand, took my wrist, and wrote a number on my skin. Her fingers were warm, feather-light, almost an absent-minded caress, but enough to ignite a fire deep in my stomach, a primal yearning that had been dormant for far too long. 8 o'clock. Tonight. Don't be late. And just like that, she walked away, leaving me standing there with my pulse racing, my wrists still tingling from her touch, the scent of her perfume clinging to my clothes like a promise, and a million questions swirling in my mind, each one more dangerous than the last. What game was she playing? And how far was I willing to go to find out? That night, I wasn't the same person I had seen in the mirror that morning. The encounter had stirred something within me, a hunger I hadn't acknowledged, a desire to break free from the carefully constructed facade of my professional life. I had changed outfits at least 5 times, ridiculous for someone who had never cared too much about appearances outside of a courtroom, a sign of the inner turmoil she had unleashed. When I stepped into the restaurant, a dimly lit haven of whispered conversations and clinking glasses, I spotted her instantly. Seated with a wine glass delicately poised between her fingers, the ruby liquid catching the light like a captured star, wearing a black dress that hugged her curves like it had been painted onto her skin, a second skin that whispered of secrets and untold pleasures. The dim lighting danced across her bare shoulders in a way that made it hard to breathe, highlighting the delicate curve of her collarbone, the subtle pulse at the base of her throat. She looked up, a slow, knowing smile playing on her lips, and in that moment, I knew I was completely fucked. I had walked willingly into her web, drawn by an irresistible force I couldn't explain. It wasn't just beauty, it wasn't just attraction, it was something deeper, something that crawled under my skin, something primal and inescapable, a recognition of a kindred spirit, a soul that understood the darkness and the light within me. "So, you actually showed up," she murmured, her voice sliding down my spine like liquid velvet, a caress that left me breathless. I sat down, desperately trying to regain my composure, to reassert the control I had so carefully cultivated. But every word she spoke, every subtle movement of her fingers along the stem of her glass, every brush of her gaze against my skin, it was all designed to unravel me, to strip away the layers of my carefully constructed persona and expose the raw, vulnerable woman beneath. We talked, we laughed, we circled each other like two predators, both knowing exactly what game we were playing, both relishing the thrill of the chase. Every glance she cast my way was a silent promise, every fleeting touch an unspoken invitation, a dance of desire that left me breathless and wanting more. And then, when the waiter brought the check, a subtle signal that the evening was drawing to a close, she leaned in closer, her breath warm against my cheek, a teasing smirk curling her lips, a promise of things to come. "Dinner was lovely," she whispered, her voice a husky murmur that sent shivers down my spine, "but your debt isn't paid just yet." Then she took my hand, guiding it under the table, slowly, deliberately down the length of her thigh. The anticipation was exquisite, a torture I welcomed with open arms. My breath hitched. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears, a frantic drumbeat urging me forward. The smooth silk of her dress was nothing but a flimsy barrier between my fingers and the fire of her skin, a tantalizing tease that drove me to the brink of madness. Her lips grazed the shell of my ear, barely touching, just enough to send a shiver down my spine, a promise of the pleasure to come. "You decide how to pay, counselor. You decide how to pay, counselor." Her voice was a hushed temptation, a challenge wrapped in seduction, a dare I couldn't resist. And instead of pulling away, instead of stopping this before it went too far, I did the one thing I should never have done. I surrendered to the moment, abandoning all reason and control. I played her game. That night was only the beginning. It was the opening chapter of a story I couldn't have imagined, a descent into a world of forbidden desires and dangerous secrets. I discovered who she was, and I realized that fate had decided to toy with me in the cruelest way possible. The most prestigious art gallery in the city, the institution my law firm had just signed a major contract with, she was the lead curator, the woman responsible for shaping the city's cultural landscape. And I was the attorney in charge of overseeing the deal, the one tasked with protecting my firm's interests. Our professional lives were now inextricably intertwined, adding another layer of complexity to our already volatile relationship. Every meeting turned into a battle of stolen glances, a silent conversation conducted across crowded rooms. Every encounter, a war of unspoken tension, of lingering touches disguised as professionalism, a dangerous game of cat and mouse that threatened to expose our secret. "We've been good all week," she said, handing me a glass, her eyes sparkling with mischief. It was a lie, a blatant, delicious lie. We had never been good. We had been teetering on the edge of oblivion, fighting a losing battle against the magnetic pull that drew us together. When I stepped closer, she didn't move away. Our breaths mingled, our hands found skin, and when her lips finally met mine, the rest of the world ceased to exist. There was only us, lost in a moment of pure, unadulterated passion. She lifted me onto the desk, sweeping documents onto the floor in a forgotten mess, a symbolic gesture of our disregard for the rules. Her hands traced scorching paths down my back. Her mouth left invisible marks along my throat, claiming me as her own. The wine tipped over, dripping down between us, mingling with the heat of our bodies, sliding down the curves of our entangled limbs, a visual representation of the chaos we had unleashed. There was no control left, no hesitation, only hunger, urgency, need. It was dangerous, it was forbidden, and it was the most exhilarating thing I had ever felt. Every stolen night was a risk, a gamble with our careers, our reputations, our lives. Every secret touch in the dimly lit hallways of the gallery pushed us closer to the edge, daring us to jump. But you can't play with fire without getting burned. The higher we soared, the further we had to fall. When my ex came back into town, a ghost from my past, jealousy exploded like a grenade, shattering the fragile peace we had managed to create. She saw him touch me, too familiar, too comfortable. Her expression darkened, the mask of composure she always wore finally cracking, revealing the raw emotion beneath. "You two were seeing each other?" she asked, her voice deceptively calm, lethal, a weapon disguised as a question. I hesitated, a fatal mistake, and in that hesitation I lost her. The truth, unspoken, hung in the air between us, a betrayal that cut deeper than any lie. Her eyes hardened, her lips pressed into a thin line, a mask of cold indifference replacing the warmth I had come to crave. And then she walked away, leaving behind nothing but the lingering taste of her skin on my lips and the ache of regret searing through me. a constant reminder of what I had lost. Sometimes infidelity isn't just betrayal, it's a discovery, an inner revolution, a painful lesson learned too late. It forces us to confront our own desires, our own vulnerabilities, our own capacity for both love and destruction. Would I have the courage to fight for her? To risk everything for a love that defied all logic and reason? Or had I already lost her forever, condemned to a life of regret and longing? Some passions burn too intensely to last, consuming everything in their path. And sometimes we realize we love someone only when we're on the verge of losing them, when the fear of separation forces us to confront the depth of our feelings. Would she fight for her? Or would she let her go, allowing the flames of their passion to fade into embers? This story is a mirror reflecting the complexities of human desire. It asks us to consider, what are we willing to risk for love? Are some boundaries meant to be broken? Can true love be found in the shadows of infidelity? It challenges us to examine our own moral compass and to question the societal norms that often confine us. If you want to hear the rest of the story, if you want to uncover the hidden secrets behind every betrayal, if you want to delve deeper into the intoxicating world of forbidden desires, subscribe to Silent Confessions, Story of Infidelity. Join our community of adults who dare to explore the complexities of love, lust, and the choices we make in the heat of the moment. And remember, not everything is black and white. Sometimes real love is found in the gray of mistakes and forbidden desires, in the messy, imperfect reality of human relationships. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, sin is only the beginning. The real story lies in the consequences. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. What are your boundaries? Have you ever been tempted to cross them? Let's start a conversation.